Welcome into another edition of Talkin Ducks, and well, sports are miserable. Oregon losing at home to Washington, and a classic game for the rivalry. Ducks find themselves on the wrong side of things. We'll break down the coaching decisions, also give you an update on the injury status of Bo Nix and some other Ducks that are banged up, and then what is there left to play for Oregon? College football playoff out the window, but it could still be a terrific season, but some very difficult games up ahead for Oregon. All right, let's go ahead and get to our opening drive, brought to you by Les Schwab Tire Centers, where they've been doing the right thing since 1952. And joining me, a crew of guys will certainly go for it on 4th and 1. Anthony Newman, Joey Harrington, and from the Oregonian, Aaron Fentress. Joey, I want to start with you on this one. This was one of the all-time great games if you look at this Oregon-Washington rivalry. But like I said, clearly doesn't go the way of the Ducks. A heartbreaking loss at home. Both teams, explosion plays back and forth. What was your takeaway from this one as the Ducks drop it to the Huskies?
Well, my first takeaway is I miss one show, and all of you guys can't hold it down for 1 week, and all hell breaks loose. I mean, seriously, like I miss one show, and all of a sudden the entire season blows up. I mean, God, you guys.
It's your fault. That's what we're blaming it on.
Joey Jinx.
Unbelievable. What's my takeaway? You lose football games. I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, was it incredible, the run that Oregon was on? Absolutely. The talk of college football playoffs, the stretch of games that Bo Nix had put together, Dan Lanning and his staff doing incredible things in the first year. But Aaron, like Aaron has said all season, if you polled 100 Duck fans at the start of the season and said, with 2 weeks left to go, all you have to do is win and you go to the Rose Bowl. Right? You win 2 games, you go to the conference championship and play whoever. I guarantee you that 99 out of those 100 Duck fans would take it. So, does it suck to lose to Washington? Absolutely it does. I mean, there's no getting around that. But I think the thing that I found in, our 44 years of playing and being around football is the idea that the other team has scholarship players too, right? Like Anthony, how many times do they say this in the NFL locker room? That other team gets paid as well, right? So let's give Washington the credit they deserve.
Did you just say that?
Yeah,
on this
I did.
show?
Because Joey's an honorable man.
Look, they won. They won the football game.
You leave and you just come back a new man.
They won the football game. Now, were there things that could have been corrected? Yeah. Were there mistakes that were made? Yeah. Do you hope that you learn from them? Absolutely. But they beat us. And there's no getting around that. The sooner we, and I say we as like coaching staff and team, can understand that and move on, it's the idea, that Bellotti said after we lost to Stanford. Don't let Stanford beat you twice. I've heard Dan Lanning say that. Don't let Georgia beat you twice. Well, they didn't. Right? And so I fully expect this coaching staff to get the team ready to play and move on, knowing, Jordan, like you said, what's ahead of us? The Rose Bowl, the conference championship, those things are ahead of us. And so, yeah, it stinks to lose to Washington, but they beat us, and there's no getting around that.
Anthony, you sat here, watched this Oregon team almost close out this game against Washington, only to have the game ripped right back from them. A lot of crazy stuff in this game. How do you reflect on this one now?
Well, everything that Joey said is so true. I mean, you have to give them credit. They beat Oregon at Autzen. And, they played a good football game. I mean, if you watched the football game, if you wasn't a fan of both teams and you watched the football game, you saw 2 good football teams playing some good football, and the better team won that day. And so what can you do? As an ex-player, and we all know this, Aaron, I'm not sure if you know this, but we all know this, that it's all about what you do next. It's how to bounce back, okay? It's the next game. And, there's a saying that we all heard, okay, playing football, okay? Winning hides mistakes. Losing exposes mistakes. So when you lose, now everything's like, oh, hey, this is bad. This is terrible. What's going on? Who's covering that guy? That guy can't cover anybody. When you're winning, oh, well, hey, we're winning. Doesn't matter. So there's some things that have to be corrected, but that's how you play the game. You correct the mistakes and you move forward.
Aaron, I know you called this one as far as Oregon not necessarily skating through their regular season going unscathed. And I know you saw a lot of things that Anthony pointed out were some issues, and it kind of appeared in this game. You knew Washington was going to light up Oregon potentially.
I'm going to ignore that little subtle jab. I'm going to just let that go because I know Newman's hurting, so he's lashing out. It's okay. Look, this football game had great theater. I covered the Blazers, as everyone knows, but I had the Ducks on my laptop, and I'm doing some of this. Oh, Dame scored. Oh, what's going to happen on third down? It was just mesmerizing. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. The back and forth, the crazy things that happened. But coming into this, yeah, I mean, I picked Oregon, but I felt it was going to be close. And this is one of those losable games out on the schedule that you wonder if you can navigate all these losable games. UCLA, they won. Now you got this one, then you got Utah coming up and Oregon State. And they slipped up in this one. And when it's close, anything can happen. And that was the thing. When it was in the fourth quarter and it was close, anything can happen. And things happened. It was mesmerizing to watch. And the one thing, though, and this is why I thought it was going to be a close game, is that Oregon's pass defense is not good. Like, it's bad, especially against good teams. And you had one of the best QBs in the country, for sure the conference, coming in here, and he put up 400. So that made it close. But this was a fascinating game to watch. But like you guys are saying, we're going to talk about it more. There's still a lot to play for.
A lot of moments really stood out, but most notably the 4th and 1 call for Oregon in their own territory with under 2 minutes left. Before we break that down, here's Dan Lanning on one of those final calls of the game.
Yeah, we just talked right when it happened. Bo said, "Coach, I feel good." I said, "Let me confirm." Ryan, I said, you'll go in the next play. And, why not call a timeout? Really, in retrospect, I wish I would have called a timeout based on the look we got, not so much just to get Bo in. But it's really easy to go back and replay the game in your head. There's probably 10 plays that I would have played a lot different, right? And it's not so much about necessarily putting Bo in that situation. They had a really advantageous look for what we gave. And wish I could have called a timeout more so than anything for that look.
All right, Joey, you hear from Lanning. He wishes he could have a mulligan and call a timeout in that situation. And I think that was what was really bizarre for people, is that it's 4th and 1. It's a tie game. If you don't convert, you're basically handing Washington a gift-wrapped field goal to try and win the game. And, for Oregon, it was a worst-case scenario in that situation.
Yeah, I don't fault the decision to go for it on 4th down. I mean, like Aaron was saying a second ago, nobody was stopping Michael Penix. I mean, that was shown the entire game. So if you punt, all you're doing is giving Michael Penix the ball back in his hands with a longer field, a chance to take more time off the clock. I mean, I thought going for it on 4th and 1 was a justifiable decision. I can understand, like he said, wishing he would have taken a timeout to get Bo into the game, right? Because the interesting thing for me, and Aaron has said it a bunch this season, there seems to be a lack of confidence, belief, whatever the word is, in Ty Thompson, right? They got in there and ran the ball 3 times in a row. And there was no attempt at an option, no attempt at a bootleg, no attempt at throwing the football.
A quick screen.
And so having Ty Thompson in the game, and you've got the best offensive line in the country. I understand that. But it significantly limited what your options were on offense. So, that's one of those things where you look back and say, gosh, maybe I could have done this. But I don't disagree with the call going for it on 4th and 1 for the reasons that Oregon hadn't stopped Washington at all. And assuming they were going to score, it gave you the best chance to have time on the clock when you got the ball back in your hands.
Anthony, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's crazy because when you look at the play and you look at Noah Winnington running the football, Washington didn't tackle him. He slipped. He slipped and fell down, and then he's down. And when you've been running down their throat all day long, they haven't stopped the running game. And both Bucky Irving and Noah Winnington has been running like crazy. Why wouldn't you trust that combination? Why wouldn't you trust to get 1 yard when you needed to get that 1 yard with those 2 good running backs and the great offensive line that you have? Yeah, why not? But yet the guy slipped and fell down. It happens. And then maybe if Bo Nix was in there with the experience of Bo Nix, he might have saw that defensive end crashing down hard, and he might have pulled it and ran. We don't know that. We don't know if it was hey, you hand the ball off, Ty Thompson,
exactly,
or you make the read. We
right,
have no idea.
We don't know.
But I trust the running backs, and I trust my offensive line to get 1 yard.
Yeah,
Aaron, 4th and 1 on your own 30-something, tie game, minute 30 left. What are you doing in this situation?
it's pick your poison. I mean, Joey has alluded to it. If you punt it back to them, are you going to stop them? They only need a field goal. And are they going to get that field goal and leave you 8 seconds? Like, to me, if you not flip the coin, but if you looked at the odds, what are greater? I can get 1 yard or I can stop them. I'm taking the 1 yard, especially when I'm looking at the stats here. I rushed for 318. They couldn't stop us, especially on the right side, right? Now, the back slipped. I think if he doesn't slip, I think he could have possibly got the 1 yard. But here's the thing that trips me out. Dan Lanning saying he wished he would have called a timeout after he saw the look they gave him. And my thing is, wait a minute. You're telling me on a 4th and 1, when you got Ty Thompson at quarterback, that you don't expect them to put 8 in the box? Even if you put trips out there, they're not going to care about those 3 receivers. I'm not zoning that up with 5 guys. I'm going man-to-man and daring you to have this kid throw, who I've seen on film that you don't trust, because you never let him throw late in games. And I've always thought, late in games, get him out there and let him throw the ball around. Tennessee the other day, put in a backup quarterback. He threw 2 touchdowns in a blowout. They let him play football. These guys never let Ty Thompson play football. So if I'm Washington, I don't respect Ty Thompson. They're handing it off. There's no way they're not. I'm putting 8 in the box. So I don't understand how they didn't anticipate that. That said, at the end of the day, it was a good decision because I don't think he would have got the ball back. Washington just beat you. And I think the guy shooting the gap, he shot, I think, the B gap, that forced Noah to change his trajectory, and that's what made him fall. So you have to give Washington credit for that. But I'm not going to blame Dan Lanning and criticize him. And some people call it a mind-numbingly dumb decision. No. I think it was a wise decision given all the things I just talked about. But at the end of the day, sometimes things don't go your way, and that's what happened in this game. Same thing, one more thing, the onside kick. The onside kick was brilliant against UCLA. Bitch in the backside this time. That's life.
Yeah. Can I just jump in here real quick, Jordan? Like, exactly like you said, Aaron, like, people are criticizing this decision and that, I would have done it this way, or why didn't he do that, or that was a stupid call. And it's so easy to sit there from the comfort of your own home and say what you would have done in that situation, or I would have gotten 1 yard, or I would have done that. All these things, second guessing, they're just ancillary to the fact that they got beat. Like that's something that hasn't happened to Oregon in a little while. They got beat. And that happens in football. That happens in competition. And it doesn't mean you have to say somebody's decision was the worst thing in the history of the program. Like, they got beat. That's time to deal with it. Move on.
Well, we'll move on, but we still got to talk more about this game, including Oregon's pass defense, also the health of Bo Nix. Plenty more coming up on this edition of Talkin Ducks. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Talkin Ducks, built by Par Lumber. Welcome back. Time now for our legendary moment, brought to you by Abby's Legendary Pizza. And here is Dan Lanning on what he learned from this loss against Washington.
There's so many things that I wish I could go back and do different. There's some moments where I felt like I got a little selfish and looking for something that, I felt like was there, and really at the opportunity time, it wasn't, and medicine doesn't always taste good. Right. And that's one thing we talked to our players about the day. There was a lot of coaches drinking medicine yesterday, right, and Sunday in that office. And you know what? It doesn't always taste good, but you better be able to accept it and attack it. And there's a lot of things that me personally as a coach, myself, that I can go do better. There's a lot of things that our coaching staff can do better, and a lot of things that our players can do better. And I think when you're in an environment where it's about growth, we've actually experienced something similar before where it didn't go the way we wanted it to go, and our guys attacked it really well, and our coaches attacked it really well. And the only thing I know to do when something doesn't go right is go to work. And that's kind of always worked for me, right? So Saturday night when the game was over, as much as I felt like going in the back room and not spending any time with anybody, you know what I did? I went and recruited, right? And then Sunday morning, I got my ass up really early and got every ounce of film graded, and then did what? Some more recruiting, right? And then did some evaluations of our performance and did a quality control report on what we can do better and how we can be better. And then that night, guess what we were doing more of? Recruiting, right? And finding opportunities to make our program better, touching base with our players, looking for ways for us to grow. So again, the result was not what we wanted. You have to give them credit for doing a good job, and you have to look It's called hard facts, man. It's the hard truths. You got to look at the things that you could have done better as a coach to prepare our team and perform better in that environment. So a lot of opportunities for growth, and I'm certainly going to attack it.
Well, Joey, there you have it. Uses the term medicine and obviously some lessons to be learned. And he's also said, don't let Washington beat you twice. But this is a tough game. It's a tough pill to swallow when you look at what was there for Oregon in one of those games that I imagine it's hard to go back and watch the game film. But there are a lot of things that you can take away that for a first-year coach, I imagine, you're really going to build upon as you find yourself in these situations later on in your career.
Absolutely. And here's why I'm so impressed with the way Coach Lanning and his staff, but mainly him, handled this. Look, I've been in situations where coaches stand up at the podium and say, here's all the things that people should have done better. Here's where we made mistakes. Here's where our offensive line screwed up, or we didn't throw the ball, or we didn't stop people on defense. Coach Dan Lanning has had a lot of success in his first year as a head coach, and it's easy to ride that wave. And now he got punched in the gut, and his team lost their first real rivalry game when they were had an opportunity to make it to the college football playoff. What did he do? He stood up and said, this is on me. This is on me 100%. Put this on my shoulders, and he took and he took it. That says more to me about his ability to be a head coach than any of the great stuff that he's done in the 8 weeks previously, right? I've had coaches stand up there and point the finger, and I've had coaches stand up there and say, this one's on me, get off the players, we're going to do a better job. And I'll tell you what, when that coach goes back into the locker room, I've seen how players respond to them. And what he did in the press conference after the game was by far the best thing that he could have done for this team, for this program, and for his coaching career, right? What did he learn from it? He learned how to stand up and say, you know what? We made a mistake. I'm going to own it. I'm going to get better, because that not only ingratiates himself to his team, but ingratiates himself to the fan base. Man, I've been so unbelievably impressed by him this season for all the great things that they've done. But this moment right there is one that's going to stick in the back of my mind as one that says, this is the guy, and this is the reason why he's the guy.
And Anthony, you look at sometimes the downside of aggression that can happen in a game, and you want to roll that dice over and over and over again, but eventually, like the Ducks did, you have a couple of things that crap out for you. What do you make about a lot of these very aggressive decisions throughout the game?
I love it. I'm a defensive coordinator, so I'm blitzing every play. I'm playing aggressive, baby. Pressure breaks pipes. We're coming after you. I mean, that's what's going on. And you're trying to win football games. And what else do you have to lose? And we also have to remember, and Joey talked about this. Excuse me. This is the first year of Dan Lanning and his staff. So what do you expect? These are learning opportunities here. He's going to make these mistakes, and he has to learn from these mistakes. He's never been a head coach. He's never had to make these kind of decisions. He was a coordinator. He was letting Kirby Smart make all those decisions. So this is good for him. This is what he needs. And as time goes on, we'll see how he responds and how the team responds in the future. But this is a learning process. This is what you need to get better. You got to make mistakes.
One of the things that drives me nuts about football and paying attention to on social media on Saturdays, especially, even more so than the NFL, is that basically it's dissolved into a bunch of people sitting around eating pizza, drinking beer, and saying how stupid the coaches are, right? When 99% of them, if they were in those positions, would wet themselves. So the bottom line is, no matter who you are, I mean, I can pull out Bill Walsh moments, Belichick moments, where I was like, that was kind of questionable. Remember that Monday night when Belichick went for it on fourth down in his own territory against Indianapolis? I mean, that just came to my head, and Indianapolis won the game. So you have to make decisions as a coach, and if you're going to be aggressive, being aggressive doesn't always mean you're going to have success. It's called being aggressive because you're kind of going against the norm. And the percentages don't say if I go for it on 4th and 1, I'm going to get it 100% of the time. No, it says I might get it more, I might get it enough to make it worth it in the long run. But in the minor moment, it could cost you. And in this case, it cost them. But I I fault him zero. And yes, he is a first-year head coach. Like, he's going to make mistakes, guys. Just look at the defense. He hasn't fixed the defense yet. And he's a defensive guru, supposedly. So let the guy grow as a coach. Forget about it. That's not why they lost that decision or any decision he made. They just got beat, and that's sports.
And speaking of which, when we come back, we'll take a closer look at this Oregon defense, and a glaring weakness is starting to develop. How do they fix it? We'll let you know when we come back on Talkin Ducks. You're watching Talkin Ducks, built by Par Lumber. Welcome back. Time now for some talking numbers. And Anthony, I want to rip through these here as we watch these highlights. Washington posted 408 passing yards. They go 5 of 9 on third down. Why is that important? Well, Oregon ranks 127th nationally in pass defense at just under 290 yards per game, and 128th in third down defense, allowing third down conversions 48.5% of the time. That's out of 131 FBS teams. So clearly the very bottom tier in college football when it comes to pass defense and third down defense. We mentioned before, winning can sometimes cover a lot of mistakes. Was this something that had just kind of always been there for Oregon, and it took a team like Washington and a quarterback like Penix that was on one the other night to expose this defense?
Well, yeah. When you lose, yes, for sure. When you're winning, but you're giving up a few bombs here and there or explosion plays, it's no big deal. It's a big deal for the coaching staff, but for everybody else, we're looking and go, oh, we're okay. We won the football game, or they won the football game. That's the biggest thing in football today. You can't give up the explosion play. You got to have that team have that 15-play drive, and within those 15 plays, they may make a mistake and you jump all over it. But when you give up 2 bombs here and there, and against an offense, they will throw the ball deep. What can you say? Now, you look at it from a technique standpoint. Yes, some of the technique is not very good. The angles to the ball carrier or to the receiver, or there's just also mistakes. And then sometimes, let's give Washington credit. They're just better than you. Sometimes that receiver that you're guarding is faster, and he's a better football player than you, and you can't guard him. I mean,
that's impossible. Simple. Every recruit is the greatest recruit ever. Anthony, didn't you know that?
That's what I thought, but it's just
top 12. Respect my decisions.
Let me jump in, Anthony.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, Joey. Jump in the pool.
I think if I'm taking a look at this, having the first opportunity after a loss to look at something like this, I would say that the Oregon offense has hidden this fact from people's.
Yes.
And their schedule.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So the Oregon offense for the better part of 2 months has been near perfect, right? And when you have a near perfection on offense, an offensive line that can dominate the line of scrimmage, a running game that's over 200 yards a game, 3 ball carriers over 6 yards a carry, Bo Nix who's completing 70% and not throwing interceptions, like those things translate to points every time you have the ball. And points every time you have the ball cover up giving up, 128th pass defense. Like, that's able to cover those things up. This was the first time, especially in the first half, Oregon's offense was not on point. They were not doing the things that they had done every single series since that Georgia game. And so we saw a little bit of that crack, right? This is the opportunity that you have to truly address that or to truly talk about it, because you didn't have an offense that was covering up for a defensive weakness. That has been pretty glaring up to this point. Is that a fair thought, Anthony?
Well,
or Aaron. I guess we can go to Aaron.
If you go back,
we need to hear from
Aaron.
No,
go to the DB first. Go to the DB. Okay. All right. So
what's it? Go ahead.
As I pointed out last week, the competition they had played thus far in conference, other than UCLA, was a combined 5-26 against the rest of the conference. So they had played the bottom half of the conference. Some of those teams had solid passing games like Washington State, Arizona, and UCLA. UCLA and Washington State put up some numbers. But it was clear that if they played a good passing attack, they were going to be in trouble. But I thought, why I picked Oregon, that the offense would keep them ahead and make the other team desperate. If you're desperate in throwing it, you're not going to be as efficient and as impactful as opposed to if you're the front runner or step for step. And that was the big problem, I thought, for Oregon, is that they never put Washington in an uncomfortable situation. But the bottom line is, the assumption was that Dan Lanning, because of that great defense at Georgia, was going to come here and have a great impact on this defense. And the problem was he wasn't bringing the Georgia dudes with him. And that's not disrespecting Oregon's talent. They do have some talent, but it's a little different than what he had at Georgia. So he's got to have some time to sort of rebuild that defense. They weren't very good last year with Kayvon and McKinney back there as the leader in the secondary. So there's work that needs to be done there. Sometimes that's just how it is. You got to replenish your talent and move forward.
Anthony, you've got a very veteran, stable, consistent Utah offense coming into town this Saturday.
Woo.
Can Oregon fix these issues prior to that, or is this a personnel health injury issue and it's just a matter of the offense is going to have to carry this defense through the stretch run of the season?
The defense will get better. They'll get better.
Shocker.
They'll improve. No, here's the
I
thing.
hope so. All they can do is go up.
Here's the thing. We're talking about the secondary, we're talking about pass defense, but also it starts up front. Oregon's ranked 90th in the country in team sacks. They're not getting any pressure to the quarterback. Somebody has to disrupt the quarterback, get him off the spot, have the quarterback make some bad throws, but at the same time, the DBs on the back end have to cover as well. So you're talking about a defense as a whole, trying to stop the pass. They're going to work on things. We're not telling the coaches anything new. They look at film all day long. They understand what's going on, and they're trying to fix those problems. And sometimes, Aaron and Joey both said it, sometimes it's the dudes that you have. You got to try to figure out, okay, who plays good where, okay, and how do I put this guy in this situation, and how do I put this guy in this situation that's going to help this defense? And that's, again, it's a first-year coaching staff trying to figure all that out.
All right, well, the good news for Oregon is that Bo Nix was able to get back into the game after his injury. We'll let you know more about his status when we come back. How healthy will he be down the stretch run? Find out when we return. You're watching Talkin Ducks, built by Par Lumber.
Yeah, I'm not going to share really any update with anybody. We came away dinged in that game. I will say that I feel a lot more positive today, getting to hear some news on where things are at right now.
Well, there you have it. Dan Lanning on the slew of Ducks injuries that the team suffered on Saturday. And Joey, let's look at Bo Nix. I mean, obviously the most important player on the field for Oregon. Can this team win with a Bo Nix that's, say, 75%? Can't run like he normally can run, but he's still out there. How does that impact him?
No.
Okay. They can't win. All right.
I mean, let's
2 L's followed by a bowl game L potentially. So,
we got to pay for commercials. We got to get to commercials, right? We can keep it simple. I mean, can they win without Bo? No. They can't. This is Utah. This is the defending conference champion. This is the team that beat USC. They need everything in their arsenal to win this football game. And
Aaron?
Yeah, I don't think they win this without a 92% Bo Nix.
Okay, so you're giving them 8%. We'll roll with that. Aaron, do you agree?
The only time
the Ducks
recent
need Bo Nix close to 100% to get this win against Utah.
Yeah, if he is limited as a runner, like I think they're in trouble, because part of the reason why he's only been sacked a couple times this season is because of his escapability. So if you take that away and he's just a stationary pocket passer, I think that limits their offense tremendously. If he does not play, we've seen nothing. I'm not criticizing Ty Thompson. We've seen nothing from anyone behind Bo Nix that indicates they can go in there and win a football game, let alone against a Utah team. And that's, like I said earlier, it's a shame that we haven't seen Ty Thompson given the opportunity to play football when he gets out there. Because maybe he's killing it in practice, we don't know, but that's never anything I've heard. So yeah, they'd be in huge trouble without Bo. If Bo misses the rest of the season, they probably won't win again. I mean, if they get tied ready for a bowl game, maybe, but I don't see it.
Anthony, you share the same sentiment?
Yeah, well, he's not missing the rest of the season. The way he was jumping up and down there, he was ready to go in. I mean, yeah, he might be injured, and injuries
that could have been adrenaline. That could have been adrenaline, and then they find out
injuries
a fracture,
are part of
and they're
football.
like, he's done.
Yeah.
Because
Okay,
here's the other
Fentress.
thing. I'm just saying, he's got the NFL to think about. So I mean, if there's something there that
Injuries
linger,
are
They
part
wouldn't
of
have let him
football.
back out there, though. They had him in the tent for a while, though.
Yeah, and if you're a competitor, you're
again,
going to
I'm
go play.
not.
Yeah, I mean,
Until I hear it from them, I'm just raising the options of what could be available. That's all.
Why we got to raise all these options? Oh, he might
Because
not play
that's
the
what we
rest of the
do.
season.
Why are we having a show if we're not talking about
Hey.
options?
So we just talking about, hey, well, We'll see what happens in a few days. Dan Lanning will talk about something in a few days.
Right.
You know, and one thing he did say is like, well, hey, I'm positive, moving forward. I think things are going to be fine. Yes, he may be limited. And what they're going to do? Run the football. We got to try to run the football well because we can do that well. But it's not with Bo Nix. It's with our running backs and with our offensive line, and maybe get some quick play action so he can play the game, at a high level. You're right. You're going against Utah. There's some dogs. I mean, those guys can play. So everybody else has to pick up their game. That's the key. The defense, the receivers, the running backs, offensive line, everybody else has to pick up and do more because Bo might not be 100%.
If Bo's not 100%,
that's
Newman,
teammates.
I'm betting.
That's
If
family.
Bo's not 100%, Newman, I'm betting your house on Utah.
All right, well, we'll let them figure out that wager a little bit later. But when we come back, we got to talk about what Oregon can still play for. College football playoff, yeah, bye-bye. But there's still a lot on the table for the Ducks to accomplish if they can win out. We'll break it down when we come back on Talkin Ducks.
Are they done, Jordan?
They're done. You're watching Talkin Ducks, built by Par Lumber. Welcome back. It's time for some excellence on the football field, presented by Ferguson Wellman. Ferguson Wellman taking a disciplined approach to investing. And for Oregon, well, listen, the CFP is out the window, but you look at the Pac-12 standings, and Oregon is one of just 3 teams with 1 conference loss, and they play Utah this week. So Oregon still controls their own destiny, and this reminds me of that year with Justin Herbert here, Anthony, where Oregon loses on the road to Arizona State, knocks them out of the CFP, but that team still goes on to win the Pac-12 title and play in the Rose Bowl. That's still at stake for Oregon, but how much of a gut punch does it feel like when you lost out on the CFP yet again?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're talking about big dreams, big hopes, big goals, getting to the playoffs with the first-year coaching staff and a transfer quarterback and a whole new running back core. Right now, Oregon has a chance to do some good things. They really do. They can finish out. They can beat a very good Utah team, at home, and then they go and beat Oregon State. I mean, and then go and maybe play for something. I'm not sure how it's going to end. I'm not sure how the season's going to finish out, but I do know one thing, that they still can control their own destiny to have a good year, and that's important. So the number one thing right now they're looking at is Utah.
Jordan or Anthony, you just said have a good year. Like let's put this thing into perspective here. Jordan, you ever go to a Rose Bowl?
I did not. We went to a Vegas Bowl.
Anthony, you ever go to a Rose Bowl?
Ask me. No.
Okay, Aaron, you ever go to a Rose Bowl?
I've attended 3.
Okay, I've attended 2, but not as a player. So that we're 0 for 4 right here. Okay, a good season. Like we're literally talking about still winning the Pac-12 conference. We're still talking about having a chance to go to Pasadena to punch your ticket for a New Year's Day Rose Bowl game. I'm sorry, that's more than a good season. A conference championship as a first-year head coach, hell yeah, you put your big boy pants on and you get yourself up and ready to play against Utah. Because if you don't, it's going to be remembered as not only being disappointed that you lost out on the college football playoff, but it's going to be remembered as giving away an opportunity for a conference championship. Those don't come around very often. So yeah, this is more than a chance at a good season. This is a chance to lock yourself in to the history of the conference by winning a conference championship. They better be ready to go.
Oh, Joey, that's so 2011. Oregon fans haven't cared about the Rose Bowl since won the first one in 85 years against Wisconsin after the 2011 season. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I agree with you 100%. I'm of the mind. I've made this clear. Winning a national championship for Oregon is going to always be extremely difficult to pull off. If that's your mindset, national championship or bust or playoffs or bust, just be prepared for a lot of disappointment. At no time, at any point in this season was this a playoff-worthy team. I mean, that to me was ridiculous. I figured they were going to stumble at some point. They did. They might stumble again. The defense is just too bad. Oh, my God, what would have happened to them against a playoff-caliber offense? I don't know. It might have been really hideous. But to me, you rack it up.
We saw that in week 1.
You rack up championships in the conference and Rose Bowl wins. I mean, that should be great. Stupendous, amazing, not frowned upon at all. I know people are disappointed because you had fantasies of going to the playoffs, even though they really weren't that good. But they can still have one of the best 10 seasons in the history of the program.
And the thing you have to remember is in a couple of years, the playoffs going to change. It's 12 teams at that point. So
Then,
those conference
they're going to get in
championships
every other year. If not
are going to
every
mean
year.
a lot because
Yeah.
you want to say you're a Pac-12 champion. Now, with that being said, Aaron, how much of a threat is Utah? Can Oregon avenge what happened in 2021? You look at what Washington did to Oregon. How much more difficult is this game against Utah?
Do you remember in the original Star Trek when the Klingons would come along, or the Romulans, and all of a sudden there'll be red alert, and they're flashing red, and everyone's running around to their station?
I see where you're going with
Yeah,
this.
it's like that. This is scary. If Bo Nix is 100% healthy, I think it's going to be a lot like the game we just saw, and it's going to come down to some stuff that happens. If Bo Nix is a stationary quarterback, they're toast. If Bo Nix doesn't play, they're going to get obliterated. So it's difficult for me to give a score prediction right now, but I'm going to go ahead and pretend that Bo Nix is going to be fine and ready to go. And in that case, I do believe Oregon can bounce back and win 38-35.
We aren't doing predictions yet.
Oh,
How
my
many
bad.
weeks have we done this show? We don't do predictions with 2 more segments left. We got to take a break. When we come
Thank
back,
you.
we'll talk more about the Pac-12 chaos, a very difficult weekend for the conference as far as its overall CFP hopes. We'll break down the madness when we come back. You're watching Talkin Ducks, built by Par Lumber. Welcome back. Time now for What's Cooking, brought to you by Sam's Northwest BBQ, located just south of Portland and Sherwood, Oregon. Your home for Yoder Smoker products and so much more. And, well, Pac-12 chaos. It was a very difficult weekend for the conference when you look at trying to keep its CFP hopes alive. UCLA, which had just 1 loss on the year, they lose at home to Arizona. Oregon, of course, losing to Washington. And then USC does the one thing you don't want to do when you play Colorado and you stomp them. That's lose one of your best players for the season. Travis Dye, a very, very difficult-looking lower leg injury. He is out for the season. So, Anthony, it's funny. You look at this, and there's this complete circle of every team has beaten every team in the conference if you follow a cycle here. And here we are, the Pac-12 coming into this weekend had 3 teams basically in the top 10. Now, USC really the only team that has a hope for the CFP.
Well, yeah, you're right. And I don't think USC is going to do it, not with their defense. I really do. I mean, I know they can score some points, but now you lose Travis Dye. You lose the running back. And you know, we all know Travis Dye. He's a workhorse. He can do a lot of things with the football and without the football, protecting the quarterback. And now you lose him. So the defense was struggling, and they still struggle, and then you lose your best player. I don't know if anybody from the Pac-12 is going to the playoffs.
Joey, your thoughts on all the madness?
Well, you hit what I was going to say is UCLA losing this weekend completed the circle because Oregon beat Colorado, Colorado beat Cal, Cal beat Arizona, Arizona beat UCLA, UCLA beat Utah, who beat SC, USC beat Oregon State beat Washington State, who beat Stanford, who beat Arizona State, who beat Washington, who beat Oregon.
Whoa.
We have literally played each other around in an entire circle throughout the
love
entire
it.
conference.
Yeah, fun.
And once again,
So
have
Colorado is
completely
basically one of the
undercut
best teams in the
everybody.
conference.
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. And so, Aaron, you look at this, and I mean, how much did the conference need to get a team into the playoff this season when you look at what's going to be happening to the conference with USC and USC and UCLA leaving here soon?
I mean, does it really mean anything since those guys have 1 foot out the door anyway? I mean, I guess it'd be nice, but it's a team that's defecting, so I don't know. And I don't know.
Hey,
I don't.
helps in the TV deal negotiations, I imagine.
But the team won't be there anymore. How do you sell
Well,
that in
there's Utah,
negotiation?
Oregon.
Oh, we had a playoff team. Yeah, that playoff team's now in the Big Ten.
Playoff team that left.
Yeah, they left you. But yeah, like Newman said, USC's defense. I mean, we talk about Oregon's defense. USC's defense, my goodness, I don't know what would happen to them in a playoffs situation, but it's USC. So if USC can win out, they're going to look sexy and have a better shot than I thought Oregon would have. So we'll see what happens. But man, I could easily see UCLA beating them or whomever they play in the Pac-12 title game.
All right, stick around when we come back. We'll give you our predictions. Oregon versus Utah, a big-time game at home. Don't go anywhere. We'll close up shop when we return. You're watching Talkin Ducks, built by Par Lumber.
They're one of the more aggressive teams, obviously, in our conference. They'll 6-man pressure, 5-man pressure, over 28% of the time, which is a really high percentage, for a team. They'll challenge you. They'll blitz 0, on either side of the 50. They play with relentless effort, right, that they pursue. And they're obviously smart. They're well coached. You see the technique show up consistently. So they're really good. On offense, it's a West Coast offense at times that can really pound the ball. They're going to hop into some unique personnel groups. They'll get in 14, 13, 12 personnel and run it down your throat. And then when you become too aggressive, they'll hit you over top. Their quarterback, I can't say enough good things about, is a relentless competitor. He makes it tick for him. He can get them in great run checks, understands what defensive look he's looking at, and is really able to take advantage of it, right? He's a smooth operator, and he plays with great toughness. It's like he's a linebacker playing quarterback. So they got a really good team. They do a lot of things really well. I think they're one of the best coach teams in our conference. I think coach has done a really good job there for a long time.
Welcome back. Time now to check out our rock solid pick, brought to you by Milan Stoneworks, bringing you the finest stoneworks in the Northwest. And Oregon taking on Utah at home. I believe the Ducks are a slight favorite in this one still, despite the injury status of Bo Nix being unknown. But let's go ahead and get to our predictions and keys to the game. And Anthony, let's get started with you. What does Oregon need to do if they want to try and get a big-time bounce-back victory at home against Utah?
The defense needs to get better. They need to improve. Utah's not the type of a team that's going to have that explosion play. They're just going to move the ball down the field. They'll get a couple touchdowns ahead and rely on their defense winning the football game. So this one's going to be a battle depending on Bo Nix, his injury, if he has a bad injury or if he's going to be out there playing and playing hurt. That's interesting, and we'll see how that plays out. But Oregon has to, they have to bring their lunch. They're going to have to play. And even though it's at Autzen, they're going to have to play 4 quarters of good football to beat Utah.
Joey?
Okay, my turn?
Oh, hold on.
No,
you're
going
give us
last.
the score prediction, Anthony.
Anthony doesn't do that.
No,
you don't do score predictions?
No.
You should know that by now, Jordan. He won't give you a score.
No, I won't.
Fine, don't worry about it. Aaron?
Do I get to go again?
You get to go again, my friend.
Okay.
This is the segment in which we give predictions.
Bo Nix is healthy. 38-35 Ducks. Bo Nix is stationary, 38-24 Utah. If Bo Nix does not play, 45-17 Utah.
Woo!
Wow.
And so it sounds like Bo Nix playing is your key to the game.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it has to
being
be.
100%.
It has to be, Jordan, because what Anthony said of fixing the defense isn't going to happen.
That ain't happening this
right?
week.
It ain't going to happen, right? Here's your saving grace: is Cam Rising is not Michael Penix, right? Utah is 6th in total offense, 9th in passing offense in the conference. They're not going to come out and chuck the ball everywhere. But like Aaron said, if Bo Nix plays and plays to the level that he has, it covers up that gap on defense, and they win whatever the number is. They win 38-24. If he plays but is hampered, I think it's a really close game. It's a 31-30 Oregon type of win. If he doesn't play, like Aaron has said, this is going to be a different ball game because Utah can just grind and grind and grind, which is their style. If we don't have an offense that can explode and put points on the board, we could be in for a tough one. And that falls on Bo Nix's health and whether or not he's able to play at the level that he's shown this year.
Yeah, this is going to basically come down to the health of Bo Nix and whether or not they're able to make a couple of adjustments on defense. Maybe they saw something on film that'll clean things up, because it's odd to me. They have talent in that secondary. It's just a matter of why can't they slow anybody down? And I agree, Utah won't expose them like Washington exposed the Oregon pass defense. But I've got a close one. I've got Oregon 31-30 over Utah if Bo Nix plays. If he does not play, I think Utah ends up getting the win by at least 2 scores in this one if Bo Nix does not lace it up. But Bo Nix is going to be out there, and Oregon's going to turn things around. All right, that'll do it for this edition of Talkin Ducks. Thanks again for joining us. Don't forget, next week we'll break down the matchup against Utah and set the stage for the big-time rivalry game against Oregon State. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.